What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Pineda Show, where we talk all things money, real estate, and entrepreneurship. And in today's video, we are going to go over everything that Joe Biden has said about how he's going to change the real estate tax code. Stay tuned. So the big news is that Joe Biden is going to become the president. Now, this isn't set in stone yet, but we can assume that it's going to happen. Now, obviously, there could be lawsuits and other things that happen before then, but it's looking increasingly likely. And as this has been happening, many people on Instagram have been DMing me how this is going to affect their real estate investments. So I figured now would be a great time to make a video on everything that I have seen and how I'm going to plan for it going forward. And if you don't follow me on Instagram or TikTok yet, make sure you give me a follow. We got a lot of great content on there as well. So let me make this very clear before I get into these proposals. None of them have passed yet. There are things he's talked about wanting to pass, and it's impossible to say if they'll actually go through. We have in the United States what's called checks and balances. So even though Joe Biden is the president, we still need the Senate and the House of Representatives to agree with any proposals. And as it stands right now, the Republicans are looking like they're gonna hold the Senate. So what that means is if Biden tries to pass any of these, the Republicans can try and block it through the Senate. So it's not like he can just say, this is what I wanna do, and then it happens. So if you're a Republican and you're worried that he's about to take over everything and tax you to death, that's not really the case. And if you're a Democrat thinking that he's gonna reform everything right away, that's probably not the case. Any of these changes are gonna take time, so there is one thing you can do. While the code is the way it is, take advantage of it now. You never know when it's gonna change. So with all that being said, as a real estate investor, I'm really not too concerned about it. To be honest, I really don't think he's gonna make that much of a difference as far as real estate taxes go. Now that's in stark contrast to if Bernie Sanders was elected. If you guys didn't see, Bernie Sanders, when he was running, actually proposed a 25% tax on house flippers. And essentially his house flipping tax was this. Some of the ways that Sanders would go about this if elected, including supporting new zoning ordinances that encourage racial, economic, and disability integration that makes housing more affordable. But there are more specific proposals aimed at speculators within the plan. That includes a 25% house flipping tax that would be levied against the people who sell a non-owner occupied property at a profit within 5 years of purchase, and a 2% empty homes tax on the property value of vacant owned homes in hopes of bringing more units to the market and discouraging speculative real estate investments. I was much more concerned if Bernie was gonna get elected than Joe Biden. To tax 25% on top of all the other income taxes and state taxes is crazy. There are places like California, which I have discussed in depth on this channel, where people are already paying up to 50% in taxes. If you throw another 25% on top of that, you're talking 75% in taxes. That would be the dumbest thing ever. And to make matters even worse, they're saying that a flip could be 5 years long. For me, if I'm holding a flip for 5 years, we got issues. I'm trying to sell that thing in 5 months, not 5 years. So one thing I'll say is we are very lucky that Bernie is not the president. Bernie makes Joe look conservative. That's how extreme that guy is. So I'm thankful that that isn't passed. Now let's get into what Joe is proposing. So one of the big things that people are worried about with Biden is his desire to change the 1031 exchange. So I'll try and give you the simplified version of a 1031 exchange. Let's say you go and buy a property for $100,000. You go and put 20 grand in work in it, you rent it out for a couple of years, and now your property is worth $200,000. Well, if you want to sell it, you can go sell it for $200,000 and you're going to pay long-term capital gains on all your profit. But if you do not want to pay those long-term capital gains when you sell it, you can do what's called a 1031 exchange. So they allow you to exchange it for a like-kind property. Now the word like-kind is very broad. Many people interpret it many different ways. That's not what I'm here to get into today. But essentially, if you want to sell that property without paying those long-term capital gains, you would exchange it into a like-kind property, basically something that's similar but more valuable. And now you can take all of those profits and reinvest it into that property. So let's go say you took that $200,000 and you put it into a home that's worth $500,000. So now you have this asset for $500,000. You didn't take any profit out of the deal because you just exchanged it into this new asset. So it was a non-taxable event and you've traded up properties essentially. So that's why people love the 1031 exchange. You can sell the property without paying all these capital gains, get a better property, and still refinance and get your profit out. And you still get all the tax deductions such as depreciation, interest write-off, all those things. And then a couple years down the road, you may want to sell that $500,000 property and get a $1 million property. Maybe you're going to exchange the single family for a multifamily. You can do that with a 1031 exchange. And you continue to get all the tax write-offs. You can continue to refinance the properties. And the whole goal with the 1031 exchange is to just keep it rolling until you die. That is the end goal of the 1031. When you die, all that depreciation you wrote off, all those capital gains, they die with you. See, typically when you sell a property, you gotta pay capital gains. You gotta repay the depreciation, but you don't do that with 1031 as long as you continue to 1031 or you die. So Biden's big change to the 1031 would be this. As part of a broader plan to roll back Trump-era tax cuts, Biden has proposed making the 1031 exchanges available only to those making less than $400,000 a year. The change would help raise revenue for Biden's $775 billion plan to fund childcare and care for the elderly over the next decade. So he wants to restrict the 1031 to people making less than $400,000 a year. Now that won't affect some people because there are a lot of people who make less than $400,000 a year. They may have a really high net worth, but their income isn't that high. So I will say, for a lot of people, this won't really change much. And a lot of wealthy people are able to write down their income so they're less than $400,000 a year, even if they make much more. Once you get all those tax benefits from rental properties, you can definitely decrease your taxable income. Even if this gets passed, which I don't think it will, but even if it does, I still assume that the people who've done 1031s to this point, they're gonna be fine with what they did. They're kind of just stuck with the property they have. They wouldn't be able to upgrade if they make over $400,000. But here's what I would expect to happen. They are either going to have a bad year where they make under $400,000 and then they're gonna sell all their properties that year, or they'll just wait till Biden isn't president anymore, then they'll sell the properties when the 1031 is the way it was. And so this is the big thing I want you guys to realize. No matter who's president, no matter who's got control of the Senate or whatever the case is, there are always strategies you can use to limit your tax bill. We're all gonna live through multiple presidents throughout our lifetime of different parties and different policies, yet rich people get rich no matter who's the president, no matter what party's in control. If you're smart and you're tax savvy, you can get past all these things. And for those of you who don't know, I actually own a tax company called TrueBooks. We can definitely help you with these strategies. We're already looking at the next year and figuring out how we're gonna plan our tax situation based on how we think we're gonna do. So tax planning's the key with any president. So let's jump into the next big tax change that Biden is proposing, and it has to do with opportunity zones. Now, I've looked heavily into opportunity zones because they seem like the best tax break that I've ever seen personally. To be completely honest, they are very complicated deals to do. There are not many people who actually know the logistics of how to make it happen. I've talked to attorneys who specialize in opportunity zones, and I have a good grasp of it, but not enough of a grasp to confidently tell you every little thing about it. They're complicated. But here's the gist of it. Opportunity zones, as this article quotes, are neglected neighborhoods. And they're trying to incentivize investors to go into those neighborhoods and start building. And they're giving a ton of incentives to do so. And let me tell you, there are some great opportunity zones that are in some areas that are up and coming. So you're seeing these big investors pool money together so that they can build apartments there, they can build shopping centers and other things. The program is actually working as it was intended. They wanted to draw money into these neglected neighborhoods and start building. And yes, it is benefiting the rich very heavily because they are getting a ton of tax breaks, but that's what you wanted. You wanted to give them tax breaks so they start building and revitalizing these areas. So I don't understand the problem here with the opportunity zones. As the article says though, the program has drawn criticism for benefiting deep-pocketed developers without enriching the targeted communities. Citing similar criticism, Biden has indicated that he would reform the program. The former vice president has proposed requiring recipients of the tax breaks to make public disclosures of their investments and the impact on local residents in terms of housing affordability, poverty, and job creation. He has also called on opportunity funds, money raised to take advantage of the tax break, to incentivize partnerships with nonprofits and community groups. So I don't have a problem with what Biden is saying here. If you're gonna do it, make it public record. I got no problem with that. Incentivizing partnerships with nonprofits and community groups, I'm all about that. That's great. So the one thing I'll say that's gonna be tough is the affordability of housing that they're building. If they're gonna be building brand new apartments and shopping centers and those things, They're probably not gonna be the most affordable. They're brand new, they're gonna be the nicest. So I'm not sure how that's gonna happen. The numbers may not economically make sense. But overall, what Biden is proposing is not crazy at all with the opportunity zones. And other than that, there's not really any big changes that I have heard about that Biden is trying to implement. It's not like Bernie Sanders trying to tax flippers 25%. He's very mild with what he's trying to do with real estate, and that makes sense. Real estate is something that I believe anybody can get into. You can get an FHA loan for as little as 3.5% down. Literally, I believe anyone can own real estate, and there are so many tax benefits to doing so. So I'm glad that he's not making too many changes to what's going on. So as far as my business goes, I'm not making any new changes. We'll see if these even pass or if he proposes new ideas as time goes along. We'll definitely cover those when the time comes. So make sure you stay tuned and make sure you also subscribe and hit the little bell notification so you get notified when those changes happen. And also, if you got value out of this video, make sure you give me a like, follow me on all my socials. Until next time, take care.